whether these people buy anything from us or not, we don't care. We care most about the feedback. And we literally have hundreds of testimonials.
Welcome to Lessons in Leverage, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of success. We'll help you unlock the secrets of leverage so you can amplify your impact in the world. Here is your host, Spencer Lowe.
Welcome back to another episode of Lessons in Leverage. I'm excited today to be joined by Scott Aaron. Scott's coming in out of Jersey where it's raining today, so appreciate you making time on spring break, Scott.
Absolutely. Just grateful and honored to be here.
Yeah, so to give people just a little bit of background about you, Scott is an internationally acclaimed and award-winning online marketer. He's a best-selling author, a top podcaster, and international speaker. And he's a go-to specialist when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, and creating income using LinkedIn. So I think that's something that is, maybe an overlooked platform for a lot of people. Tell me what it is, Scott, that got you focused on LinkedIn when a lot of people were probably kind of on Facebook or Instagram or some of the kind of trendy things. What is it that really makes LinkedIn so important, especially to building a personal brand?
Well, I'll say people are still not paying enough attention to it because I'm still doing these podcasts. I'm still doing keynotes. And what got me into it was I've been coaching and consulting for about 26 years now. I started in 1998 when I was only 19 years old. I was in the fitness industry for about 16 years or 18 years from 1998 to 2016. I did wellness consulting, nutritional consulting, wellness speaking. I had 3 gyms. And that's kind of like where I got my learning lessons as far as how to coach people, how to get them results. But what I found over time as my appointment book continued to fill up, waking up at 4 o'clock every morning and getting to the gym at 5 and working straight through till 9 o'clock at night and doing that 6 days a week, it wasn't conducive for healthy anything, healthy relationships, friendships, all that stuff. And, when I became a dad in 2012, I was fairly unavailable because the way that my business was structured is if I wasn't working, I wasn't earning. And for me, I wanted to be a provider. I wanted to be able to not only provide from a monetary standpoint, but from a physical time standpoint, and I couldn't. So that was kind of like the big motivation to kind of seek out other opportunities. And I was looking at my psychographics and the demographics of the people that I was working with, and I realized that it was the same demographic. It was all business professionals that would stop at the gym on their way to work out with me, on their lunch break, or on their way home from work. So I said to myself, if these people would be willing to see me in person, there's got to be a pool of people out there that would be willing to work with me, either from a nutritional or online workout perspective, all over the country. And I started asking myself, where could I build that personal brand side of myself, leveraging the online wellness side of things to business professionals? What social platform would be best? And it was just clear cut that it was LinkedIn because, Facebook and Instagram represent, yes, there are business brands on there, but they're a better representation of someone's personal life. And I like to keep my business and personal life completely separate. I post a lot on social media, but you only get a glimpse into my personal life because I like to be as present as possible. If there's something that I do want to share, I'll share it from a personal standpoint, but there's a lot of things that go on in our life, myself, my son, my wife, that we don't share because we like to keep those things private. So I wanted to be able to share whatever I wanted from a business perspective on a platform where it was just kind of out there. So I had originally started an account on LinkedIn back in 2009 when I was on there more for the purpose of my health club, the last one before I closed it in 2016. And it basically collected dust for 4 years. I did nothing with it, hopped on there in 2013, dusted it off, changed my profile, updated it, and I started using it what it was meant to be used for. It's a search engine to connect you to other people that could be a core demographic of potential clients or business allies. And I started using it for both. I started really establishing some great business partnerships, but also I was able to create some great client connections. And within about 8 months, I was able to create an online a wellness coaching practice that basically replaced everything that I was making in person. And at that point, I started to divert more of my time and energy into the online space and less time in the in-person space. And it took a number of years to obviously fully transfer over, but that was kind of like the eye-opening moment for me. And I think what really solidified that I was onto something is that in that little 8-month time period between 2013 and 2014, I had showed a few of my friends what I was doing because they kept asking me, like, you know, it looks like you're killing it on LinkedIn. What are you doing on there? Is it like Facebook? Is it like Instagram? I'm like, no, it's not like any of that. So I showed a few of them what I was doing. I had nothing formalized at this point. There was no book. There was no course. There was no anything. It was basically me just going on there and telling them what to do. One person in particular, my buddy Joe, reached out to me about 2 weeks after I showed him what to do. And he said, dude, listen, whatever you figured out, he goes, it really works. He goes, I have 14 appointments booked this week. And he goes, I have never had that many appointments in 1 week before. He goes, you should be teaching this. You should be coaching and consulting other people. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, what do you mean coaching and consulting other people? He goes, it's just like your personal training or your wellness coaching, but now you're doing business coaching and business consulting for, it could be other wellness professionals looking to grow an online business or just a general, you know, coach, consultant, or service professional, because what you've created can be recreated for anyone's business as long as they're following the core things that you're teaching. And that was kind of like, oh, okay, you know, I proved it for myself. I actually beta tested when I wasn't even really trying to beta test anybody, and I proved it for the beta testers, and then I took it to market. So at the time, I downloaded a very unknown application called Zoom. This was 2014 when Zoom was not what it is today. This is 10 years ago. I signed up for a free account and did not know anything about the angle of your computer, and my laptop was like facing up at my chin, and you can see the ceiling of my kitchen. And I shot the videos right then and there and kind of walked people through, and I started selling a $37 course of how they can start leveraging LinkedIn. And then obviously what happened with the coaching side of things, my first personal coach and mentor, Jeffrey Combs, he invited me on to, I'm really dating myself here. He invited me onto a live like webinar, a live podcast, I guess at the time, through 1-800-conferencecalling.com. And for anyone that's listening or watching this, you know I've aged myself when I talk about conferencecalling.com because you had to punch in some 18-digit code to get on there. But anyway, you know, I spouted some information about LinkedIn and how I was leveraging it. When I got off of that call, I popped onto Facebook just to check some notifications, and I had 8 inboxes of people that were willing to pay me to coach them how to use LinkedIn. And I'm like, wow, like these people will actually pay me to teach them. And that again was the big aha moment where I'm like, okay, I think I got something here. I got to tighten the screws. I got to dot the I's. I got to cross the T's, and let's go full throttle with this thing. And I haven't looked back since.
Man, what a story. I mean, there's so many nuggets in there I think people can get value from. I think this idea of when you're in a job, sometimes that the constraints can feel crushing, you know, whether it's having a kid or having a new responsibility. Sometimes people have church responsibilities or community obligations, or there's something that's really starts to stress their time, and they realize that all this time they're dumping into work isn't sustainable. And so I think that's a key set of conditions that can lead people to find leverage to say, all right, I got to get more out of less. I can't be spending all this time, but I do still need to make this money, or maybe I want to make more money. And so, you know, having that realization that you can try it online, I think, and one of the things I want to point out that you mentioned there that's important for people to notice is it wasn't just, all right, I'm going to do something online. You were really clear about what? It's, I have a skill set in wellness. You were really clear about who. This is the target demographic I'm looking for. Where would they exist online? So you didn't end up on LinkedIn on accident. You knew that's where the professionals are. And that's the people you're already working with. And all these little decisions, approaching it this way, led to much faster success than if you just get online and start taking courses and searching around and like, where do I do something to make some money? those type of vague wishes don't get traction quickly. But when you have this clear idea of what you can provide to add value to people's lives, you know where to find them. It's incredible how fast then you're able to replace that income. And then that gives you leverage to actually let go of the day job. And so then you're able to really make the jump into online entrepreneurship, which really is a higher form of leverage than any in-person, even though it sounds like you were somewhat of an entrepreneur already, kind of running your own business and doing your own training. What was that jump like? I do want to double back that just a sec. What was that shift in leverage from like, oh, I can be an owner and I can, build my own business in the physical world? What were some of the big shifts then as you moved into the digital world that you were maybe surprised by or that really got you excited?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've been psychologically unemployable since day one. So I've never worked for anyone else. So I think I would give one advantage and one disadvantage. So the one advantage I had to making that leap from the in-person to the digital world is the fact that I'd been building my own brand all along. I was posting on social media, but it was more for my personal training, come to my gym, check out my group fitness classes, come take some yoga, come to it. So I was already into that self-promotion phase of using social media to grow a business. It was just a brick and mortar. So it was a very easy transition. I would say it was more of an advantage that I was already doing that enabled me to start doing it for more of the digital side of things. I would say the disadvantage that came across with that was organizing my time, because I now had a third business on my shoulders. So I had the regular operations of the fitness club and all, my general manager, my floor manager, my trainers, my instructors. So I had all the day-to-day operations that I had to worry about on top of my in-person book of clients where, I did, trainings at the gym. I had group fitness classes that I had to teach, as well as I did personal in-homes all over the, Philadelphia city. Now, adding a third layer onto that, which is more of the online stuff, I was definitely overwhelmed and overconsumed by the amount of things going on. So if I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't change anything about how I went about it. I probably would have been a little bit more stringent and clear on my boundaries for myself and the three businesses that I had, because, we still run multiple arms of our business. Nancy and I, the company that we have now, there's three different arms to it, but yet we're only working 3 days a week because we learned how to streamline processes. And again, I wasn't ready for it back then, but I would say that was the biggest struggle that I had, was my time, organizing my time, and really balancing life and business and not allowing them to overlap into each other.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Some great insights there. So then as you moved fully into this digital world, you mentioned a few phases that I want to circle back to and maybe get a little deeper on. So there was first a phase of, I'm taking my current business online. I'm doing coaching for wellness, for nutrition online. And then there was this realization, I've really figured out a skill set on LinkedIn. That in and of itself is a business line I could teach on, consult on. I think most people don't realize that they have monetizable knowledge that they could sell online. Even for me right now, one of the things is I've grown my business. We have about 60 employees now, and I want to teach all of them everything. I used to get to teach people one-on-one when we were just a startup. And this is everything from, personal finance to ways of dealing with clients, soft skills, sales skills, things that I just think are going to make their life, make them much more successful and happier. Mentality, mindset. There's all these things I've been able to learn and paid a lot of money for coaching on that I want to be able to share with my people. And so I realized in the last little bit, I have to build an online knowledge brand so that I can just do it at scale. And so I can't do it at one-to-one, especially as I've invested in more companies and there's more founders and people I want to share this with. I need to have it all in these courses. So out of necessity, I've started to build courses. But as I've dipped my toe into that world, I've realized this is crazy that I'm just now realizing what the opportunity is beyond just educating the people I care about at scale to actually just market it and go sell it and make a lot of money. So for people that are out there listening to this who maybe have a specialized skill like you had with wellness and nutrition, or maybe they've got other, career skills they've built up, how would you, now knowing what you know, where would you start and what are some of the steps? Because a lot of people are like, well, I could do a podcast, I could do a book, I could build authority, I could go on social, and you've done all these things. I could build a course. And so sometimes it's hard to know where to start. How would you break down kind of the process of going through building that education brand, and what would you recommend there?
Yeah, it's another great question, because this is something that my wife and I teach in our mastermind, and it's called the ladder of value, and it's also your quantifiable offers. And you just mentioned a bunch, right? Anything can be monetized. It could be a membership, it could be a SaaS product, it could be a course, it could be a group coaching program, one-on-one, podcast, book. If I was to give any best suggestion, if this was a client of mine asking me, I'm looking to start growing my business, what is the best way to do it? Hands down, one-on-one consulting. You have to start coaching other people. You can't create a course based on something that you've never gotten results for other people for yet. You can't start a podcast based on any real world results if you haven't gotten them for people yet. So just to kind of give you my little history, I started coaching people in 2013, early 2014, and it wasn't until 2016 that I then created the digital course, because I needed two options for people at this point, because if they couldn't afford my one-on-one coaching, I could then shuttle them into a digital program that didn't involve my one-on-one time. So I was still trading time for dollars in essence, but for someone that's looking to generate, say, $10,000 a month, it's a little bit easier to sell 2,000 coaching packages to one-on-one clients than trying to sell some digital products when there's zero social proof. You've built no network, you've built no like and trust. None of that is built. The best way to build the know, like, and trust, the best way to build your expertise, the best way to build a referable type of business is first getting results for other people. And that's why I went all in with the coaching right away. I priced myself so super, super low because, number one, I hadn't proven it to the marketplace yet. I hadn't gotten a ton of results for people yet that would then enable me to then take that information and say, you know what? I've gotten a ton of results for these people. I have testimonials to prove it. Now I can raise my rates. So I was only charging $250 for, I think it was like 4 or 5 30-minute sessions, like nothing. But to me, that was a lot of money in the sense that, like, wow, these people are going to pay $250 to work with me. And I was doing a ton of sessions and I was grinding it out. And after it got to a certain point, I was working with another coach and they made the suggestion. They said, every year that closes, every year that rolls into the next, you raise your rates. The next year that comes around, you raise your rates. You raise your rates. You raise your rates until people stop saying yes. And I'm here to tell you that I've nearly, at this point, I've almost 100x'd the investment to work with me one-on-one, and people still say yes. So you have to build that credibility first. And I'm not telling people to charge $3 for their coaching, but get people results first. Get testimonials from the people that you get the results for so that you can then share those results on social media, right? I used to interview, I always get these memories on Facebook. Whenever I was working with a one-on-one client and they were getting results, they would reach out to me. And within the first couple of weeks, they're like, man, I already closed a new client, or I have all these new connections. I'm having all these new appointments. I would say to them, listen, would you mind if I interviewed you on a Facebook Live sharing your experience? And the whole structure of that interview series was, don't take it from me, take it from my clients. And I would just ask them questions and they would just share, you should be working with this guy. His system works. His coaching works. You should hire him too. And without fail, I would have people reaching out to me that saw those interviews that would want to work with me. So social proof is everything. And that's why I'm really big. You can see behind me this little 500. My wife made that for me. It's a certificate of accomplishment for receiving 500 LinkedIn recommendations. I set out to really set myself apart from other people on LinkedIn. There's a lot of quote unquote LinkedIn coaches out there that like have no testimonials. And I'm a big believer in social proof, reviews of my books, reviews of my podcast, testimonials, recommendations on LinkedIn. I want to gather as many of those as possible so people can see, wow, it's not just Scott saying that he knows what he's doing. Hundreds and thousands of people have also said this. So before you go and create that course, before you go and create that group coaching program or that mastermind or write that book or start that podcast, boots on the ground, get your hands dirty, start working with people one-on-one, but most importantly, get them results. If you get those people results, you prove your concept. Now you can grow and scale what you have.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And I think that's also maybe the most important advice for the people who come in knowing they want to start an internet business. Because some people see this and they don't have any skills yet. They don't have the background you had in a specific industry and already have this wealth of knowledge that now they're just, all they needed was, the starting an online business. There's a whole swath of people now that are like, I want to start an online business. What do I need to teach? And then I'm just going to teach something. And they don't have any of the background. And so that's created some distrust of coaches, some noise in the marketplace. And it makes it harder for people to really respect or to take your offer seriously. And so I think this concept of, one, making sure you have the actual juice to prove it, you have the results, and then being able to prove it without telling them. So being able to prove it because you have the testimonials, you have the written reviews, you have the interviews you did with your clients. That's something I've certainly not done a good enough job at times in my own business of actually collecting the testimonial, actually getting the interview, even though the results were there. And if you don't do that, then you have to convince people that you've done it in the past. That's much harder. It's much easier when they'll just tell your story for you and drive the traffic.
Yeah, we even go a step further. So we conduct, I would say, about 6 or 7 free workshops a year that all lead into one of our core offerings, whether it's our mastermind, our foundations program, my LinkedIn course, our memberships. And they're free workshops. That's it. But it's interesting. We always send out a feedback form after the workshop is done. Whether these people buy anything from us or not, we don't care. We care most about the feedback. And we literally have hundreds of testimonials because on the little feedback form, it's just a Google sheet, right? It's a Google form they fill out. Got some prompt questions and it gets imported into a Google sheet that my wife and I and our team can access. And there's a column where share any feedback, testimonials, or wins. And literally after every workshop, we get at least 30, 40, 50 different testimonials. So we're collecting 300-400 testimonials just from our free workshops every single year. And we've been doing this for the last 5 years. So when you can accumulate 1,500 recommendations or 1,500 testimonials, social proof is everything. When you want to bridge that gap between someone that doesn't know you to someone who does know you, one of the best ways to bridge that gap is sharing the words of others that make that person feel more comfortable about crossing the bridge because they're as skeptical as the next person. But when they're hearing it and reading it from someone else that like, man, they're speaking right to me. That's exactly how I felt before I took this workshop and now I feel like this. Let me go take a closer look to see what Scott and Nancy have to offer. So getting those testimonials, it's everything. It's something we recommend to every one of our clients in our mastermind. As soon as someone has a win or a breakthrough or a success story, ask for just a quick 30-second testimonial. Ask for a quick little write-up. Get something from them because social proof is everything. It speaks the loudest. Anything that you've ever bought, you maybe have bought it after just one look, but think about restaurants, right? What's the one thing that we do? We ask our friends and family, hey, I'm going to be downtown in XYZ area. What's your recommendation for a great restaurant? So you're not going to take some random person's advice. You're going to ask someone that you know, like, and trust about a restaurant that you may want to go into. And guess what? You're going to go based on that recommendation. It's the same thing when you're growing a business. Getting the impactful, positive feedback words of others will help you grow and scale your business. It is proved time and time again that it works. People just don't leverage it enough.
It's a massive form of leverage that people can use. So I love you calling that out. So Scott, as you've diversified, now you've got several streams of income, somewhat related, I would say, from, the different areas that you're in, a lot of knowledge-based online businesses, communities, masterminds, those types of things. But I imagine there's also some variety in there. Maybe I imagine maybe still do some stuff in fitness or have some different investments in some different things. And so my question for you would be, what's your perspective on a personal brand, especially with social, organic social? You're generally posting as yourself. You can post on a business page. I don't know many people who get great results with that. So if you're building your personal brand, but maybe you've got, 3 or 4 offers that are somewhat uncorrelated or serve different markets or different target demographics, how do you approach that, or how do you think about that? Do you focus more on just narrowing it down on a given channel for like LinkedIn, I'm only going to pursue one thing, or, how do you deal with it?
It's really interesting that you asked that, because the more I think about it, I mean, we have a core demographic of people that we help. And I would say the messaging that my wife and I have across social media cross-pollinates to every niche that we serve, because it's, what I do on Facebook, it's just general inspiration. I do a morning quote. I do an evening affirmation. I share some business stuff, throughout. Maybe it's me at a speaking event, or I just booked this, or, our book just hit bestseller. It's all relatable stuff. LinkedIn, our core strategy, my wife talks more about personal branding. She wrote a book about it. So a lot of what she posts on Instagram and LinkedIn is more focused on building your personal brand. Myself, yeah, I do talk about personal branding, but if anyone ever follows me on LinkedIn, it's all LinkedIn education. I'm always talking about stuff that you need to do on LinkedIn. But it's interesting, everything that we have focused on in all of our social media channels, it's been attracting all the same people. And we have 3 different arms to our business. So my wife runs one arm, I run another arm, and then we have an arm that we run together. Now, we have a COO, we have a copywriter, we have about a team of 9 or 10 right now. So we wrote a book recently called The Feel Good Business Model. So we've grown and scaled to where we work 3 days a week. Business should feel good, work smarter, not harder. And we talked about it in this book. So what we really like to do is, we delegate and we have team, and there's a reason for that, because we want to be working on our business, not in our business. Now, it's taken us time to get there, but interestingly enough, my wife, the arm of the business that she heads up is our content repurposing agency. It's called BYOB Agency, and we typically only work specifically now with insurance brokerages and service providers. So she's struck up a great partnership with an amazing insurance coach. He's a speaker and coach, and he works with a lot of insurance brokers, and he partnered with her to include her repurposing agency as a part of his package deal for his mastermind. So she's just fed clients left and right. So she doesn't even really have to promote it. But we do have our own version of Hootsuite and Buffer. So we have a content scheduler called BYOB Social that literally is for anybody. It's for service providers. It's for individual personal brands. It's for coaches or consultants. If they want to, schedule their content out across 7 platforms, we have the means to do that. My side of the business is all LinkedIn. And I strategically work with, again, individual service providers or companies and corporations. Caesars Entertainment is actually a sponsor of mine now. So I do speak to some of their high-end accounts, traveling, doing corporate speaking. I do keynotes, but I do work with individual coaches and consultants as well. And then us together, we have 2 different programs, Expert Foundations and Expert Authority. So Expert Foundations is for anybody that's in the pre-launch or early stages of their business. And it doesn't matter what business people are running. So what people need to understand is when you're looking to grow a business, no matter what it is, they're all built the same. Financials, operations, marketing, sales, and lead gen. Those are the 5 arms of your business. So we put together like a self-paced 6-month course helping people get the foundations of their business in place, registering your business, getting your G Suite account, all the things that people need to do that they don't think about in the beginning. So we have a multitude of people in there. We have authors, we have speakers, we have podcasters, coaches, consultants, financial advisors, real estate professionals. And then we have our expert authority mastermind, which is just honed in only with coaches, consultants, and service providers. Now, here's the one big thing that I do want to let people know. There are mixed messages with niching down. There are people that disagree with it. They feel that you shouldn't niche down because you'll niche your way out of business. I could not disagree more. As much as you would like to serve and help everyone, you can't. And the reason why you can't is because not everyone is a good fit for what you offer. You don't want to offer your services to someone that isn't going to get the best results. That's why Nancy and I predicate our business and what we teach others is only serve those that you actually serve. Serve those people that are going to get the best results from what you're offering, whether it's a course, a coaching program, consulting, group, whatever you're doing. So when you're building out your personal brand, it should be your overarching message, your vision. It could be your positioning statement. But above all else, one of the best ways to build your personal brand on social media is to be seen as a person of value. And I think this is another missing key of the online marketing world. People are definitely afraid to give too much. They feel if they give too much value, no one is going to cross the bridge to actually want to invest with me. And again, that couldn't be further from the truth. The people that actually grow the best businesses are the ones that give the most without expecting anything back in return. Now, if you're more in the beginning stages of leveraging social media to build your personal brand, you're going to have to do some testing. You're going to have to see what lands on what demographic or what psychographic, and you need to kind of dwindle down from there. Sometimes in the very beginning, you will have to cast a wide net to then be able to narrow down. So there's really not one great answer. A personal branding question is a very, very big question that ends up funneling down over time. But what I'll say is this: sometimes it takes you to work with some of the wrong people to realize who are the right people that you should be working with. And I can tell you, Spencer, more than once, my wife and I have both experienced this where we've taken on a client, and before we even started with them, I've said to her, I don't have a good feeling about this. Or she has said to me, I don't know about this person. And without fail, within a couple of days, we're sending them their money back. And don't be afraid to do that. I think people, they have this thing where they don't want to lose what they don't already have. And my big thing is that clear out that energy. You don't want to take someone's money that isn't a good fit for you, because when you kind of clear that monetary airwaves of what is not a good fit compared to what is, one door closes, another one automatically opens back up. So I would just take all that advice and, again, dissect it any which way you want. It's a pretty wide answer, but you will know. People will still walk through the door, and again, you'll look at different arms of your business and you're like, I have all these different offerings and I should have all these different avatars. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes what you serve and the market that you're actually serving, they cross-pollinate over each other, and you may be helping a lot of the same people. And that's the other great thing, Spencer, is we have people, just to give you an example, there was a woman recently that joined our mastermind. So she started off by reading my book. Then she got into a lower level membership that we had. Then she jumped into our 6-month membership. And recently she just upgraded to our high level mastermind. And that's all over a 2-year period. So just think about that trajectory. If you got people into that funnel where, they made that initial investment with you and loved what you had to offer, just imagine, because that's how the mind games work when people invest. Like, well, I invested $49. I wonder what $7.97 will get me. You know, I just invested $7.97. I wonder what 13 grand will get me. You know, and the more that people invest their time and their money, the more accessibility they're going to get to that person, which means they know they're going to get better results, because at the end of the day, people want to work directly with us. Now, we're not untouchable, but you're going to have to make that investment. We need to know that you're serious as us, about growing and scaling a business the way that we are.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you've got some family commitments that I want to make sure we wrap up here with time for you to get to. So with just a couple minutes left, I would ask one question and then let you kind of close us out from there. So my one question would be, what are your feelings about AI and the current state of generative AI? Specifically, are there any areas that you're finding it really useful in your business? Are there any areas that you're worried about it disrupting your business? And after just a brief answer on that, then please let everyone know how they can contact you if they'd like to hear more or work with you in some capacity.
I appreciate that. I could not love AI any more than I do right now. It is, I read actually an article the other day. The CEO of Google basically said it's the greatest invention since electricity. And I could not agree more. Those that are opposing it, you're opposing your own growth. And if you think that it's going to replace jobs, no. AI just enhances everything that we're doing. So I interviewed a guy on my podcast a few months back. He's a PhD in artificial intelligence. And I asked him this question. I said, how would you best describe ChatGPT? He said, the way that I would describe it as an AI sandwich. He said, the AI output that you plug in is the bread to your sandwich. He said, but it's important for you to add the meat in the middle, which is your own voice, your own words from the output. And I follow that to this day. So I don't ever copy and paste, but if you need an email sequence, you can build out a whole content calendar. We showed people when they're looking to launch their podcast, this is how crazy it is. You can type in a ChatGPT, I have a podcast that's based around helping people leverage LinkedIn to grow their business. My core audience is coaches, consultants, and service providers. Can you give me 52 different topics for episodes for this upcoming year with 3 bullet points to go off of? You hit enter and watch the magic happen. It's unbelievable. So you've gotten all these titles, you've gotten the bullet points, but guess what? You're adding your own voice to it. So always remember the AI sandwich. The output is the bread, but your voice, your words are the meat to it. And it's been, so before I tell people where they can find me, my 3 favorite AI tools right now, ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, which is a combination of Google and ChatGPT. So you can actually punch things into it and it'll cite those things through Google. So there's a lot of people that feel Google will be replaced with Perplexity. It's unbelievable. And opus.pro, it's a newer tool out there where you basically can take any MP4 video that you have, you can pump it into Opus, and then it will basically create 30 to 90 second viral mini clips that are captioned that you now, with the paid version, which is only $19 a month, you can pre-schedule it to go out on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, LinkedIn, Twitter. It doesn't get any easier. So you can sit there, you can pump in a video, it'll come up with 13 or 14 videos, and you just schedule them all out once a day for like 3 weeks. Now your content is running somewhat on autopilot. And if anyone's looking to connect with me, obviously you can find me on LinkedIn under Scott Aaron. My 2 websites, my personal website is scottaaron.net. If you want to visit our company website, it's www.thetimeToGrow.com. And that's the best way to find me.
Scott, thanks so much for your time today. It's been fantastic hearing your story and learning from some of the key lessons that you're such an expert in. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Spencer. Appreciate your time.
Hey, before you go, I have a small request. Our mission is to empower as many people as possible to maximize their potential through the power of leverage. Could you help us in this mission by leaving a review on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube? And if you know just one person who would benefit from today's episode, would you please share it with them? Your support means the world to us, and we are thrilled to have you in the community. Thank you for being a part of our journey and helping us grow. You can find show notes for today's show and past shows at lessonsinleverage.com, which also has links to connect with me personally and connect with our various podcast channels across your favorite social networks. A big thanks to Solve.cloud, who sponsored this episode. They're a group of expert consultants that help SaaS and financial services companies to implement, optimize, and manage Salesforce.com. They can help you with custom integration solutions and are helping customers to implement some of the most important generative AI technologies. You can find them at solved.cloud. That's SOLVD.cloud is the URL. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.